Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. Saturday, April 22nd. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith are with you, ready to break down the Saturday slate. Kevin Beach, by the way, traveling back home today. So he was a late scratch today on the show, but he's hoping to join us actually for an extra episode during the week this week. And if not, he'll be definitely back next Saturday. Exciting Friday it was here on the NHL playoff slate last night. Lots of intriguing results. Let's start with the Hurricanes and the Islanders. It was the first game, obviously, and I'll tell you what, for the first two periods, it was a pretty low event type of game. I mean, the shots on goal weren't very high through the first two periods, and it ended up being 1-1, of course, after the first two periods. There was a crazy sequence there where the Islanders made it 1-0. Casey Cizikas got the first goal. It looked like the Islanders scored the second goal, but it was cleared off the goal line by Seth Jarvis, saved a goal for the Carolina Hurricanes, and it stayed 1-0 for the Islanders. And sure enough, Jesper Fast gets a shorthanded goal for Carolina, and right then and there, you're really worried about the Islanders, and if that's a huge momentum breaker for them. They were this close to being up 2-0, and all of a sudden it's 1-1. Third period rolls around. It's a very, very deliberate, a tight checking style of play we saw. Neither team was really willing to take too many risks, too many chances in that third period, and it looked like we were destined for overtime in that game when all of a sudden it explodes for the New York Islanders. Kyle Palmieri, tip-in deflection, and a beautiful one at that past Antti Raanta to give the Islanders a 2-1 lead with under 4 minutes to go, and then a break. Well, I guess Carolina, product of them trying to push for the tying goal, but the Islanders take advantage on the counterattack and the transition opportunity. And Matt Martin, a goal that, by the way, Antti Raanta should have had. It was a short side goal. He's got to stop that. But nevertheless, that was the backbreaker, 3-1 Islanders. And it didn't stop there. As they poured it on, they added another one very quickly last night and added that 4-1 lead against the Carolina Hurricanes. With the Mayfield goal with 1:49 to go. That was the empty net goal, by the way, that made it 4-1. They had pulled the goalie down 3-1, Carolina. And then the crusher for anyone that had the under, whether it was under 5 or under 5.5 in that hockey game last night. You think, okay, 4-1. Even if you've got 5.5, you're still a winner. 5, you got to push. They pulled the goalie. They got scored on. 4-1, game over. Just run out the clock. It's over. 4-1 Islanders. Nope. Right after that, Anders Lee buries one with 1:33 to go to make it 5-1 Islanders. Like, if you had under 5 or 5.5 last night, that's brutal. That is a Hall of Fame level bad beat. There is no doubt about that. That's horrendous for anyone that took under in that game, because that game is 1-1 after the second period. Hell, it was scoreless after the first period. And to not get the win with that bet is just painful. Pain is the word. You talk about the pain of a hockey player in the playoffs, suiting up. How about the pain of an NHL bettor in the playoffs when they have an under 5, 5.5, the game scoreless after 1, 1-1 after 2, and you don't cash? That's some pain right there. So absolutely awful. But again, it's always the thing I'm worried about when it comes to unders, is that you get that late explosion, particularly in the third period of playoff games, which goes back to the point we've made for years about third period overs. Now, third period overs, usually I don't get involved with them too much until the elimination games roll around. But certainly we saw still, even in the non-elimination games, those third periods can be tricky, especially in close games, and things can still kind of get away from you. But a terrible beat if you had the under. And the Islanders, credit to them. 1-1 at third period. They're maybe this close. Like, Carolina makes it 2-1. The game's over and the series is over. But they got that 2-1 goal. They pull away from that point, and they're back in the series. And for Alex and I, our little shot in the dark, little bet that we made before the series, correct series win order, that being all home teams to win every single game in this Carolina-New York Islanders series, is still alive through the first 3 games. Alex, what did you think there?
Yeah, like I said on Twitter, we're still in there like Brazilian swimwear as far as that home series ticket goes. But the thing is, you know, it's actually kind of a good point that you brought up about looking at those third period overs. If you feel like a game's not going to go to overtime between these two, and you think you're going to see that explosion late, kind of, be it one team wears down the other, or just things just completely open up, the third period over is probably a good look, because now that we're seeing 5s and 5.5s, you're not laying, 250 to pregame play a third period over, and certainly you can grab, the 1.5 adjusted in the full game total in the third period because of those low numbers. So that's a great look to have, not just, focusing in on that. We'll talk more about that as we get into elimination games, of course. That's when we'll be playing those more frequently. But that's a solid look with that matchup. And like I said, it's just interesting how these two teams really play a lot like each other when they're at home. And we mentioned it about how Carolina last year, the struggles that they had on the road. It doesn't. It's not a massive flip, right? It's not like they're getting crushed 6-1 every time they go on the road and they win 4-2 at home. No, it's they play the same style of hockey, but for some reason, the last change or the environment, those little intangibles seem to creep up for one reason or another, and that's what gives the difference to those home teams in those series. So, like I said, it was a good handicap by us having that ticket. It's a long shot of a play, but hey, we're in business now with 3 out of 7 to go. So. Just hoping that train continues to roll.
Yeah, exactly. In the East, well, I never wavered, honestly, and you know that if you watched the show yesterday. I'm like, I don't care that Bergeron's out again or whatever. Allmark, whether he plays or not, he ended up playing for the Boston Bruins, which actually was a surprise because I'm pretty damn sure they had announced Jeremy Swayman as the starting goaltender for Boston already last night. But late change, and Allmark was ready to go. And he ended up starting last night for the Boston Bruins, but still no Bergeron. And David Krejci, a late scratch last night for Game 3 of that series. But so that's your top two centers right there out for the Boston Bruins. But as we've seen so often this year with this Boston Bruins team, it doesn't matter who's in. It doesn't matter who's out. This team finds a way. They've done it all year. Injuries, absences, suspensions, it doesn't matter. And off a loss in particular, this team has responded with one of their best games each and every time. And they did it yet again last night. The only question was, they did it all year in the regular season. Would they do it again in the playoffs? And they did last night, responding after a bad performance, which has been rare from them this year. But a great win for them last night, 4-2 win. And the 4-2 kind of flattering to Florida because they got a couple of goals late when it was already 4-0 Boston. But not really much more to add other than that. Pasternak was great. Marchand was great. They pulled the weight for the Boston Bruins. I thought the D was just stifling. All those turnovers we complained about in Game 2 for Boston, and they had egregious ones all over the ice. You didn't see that last night. Puck management was spectacular, was superb throughout the night for the Boston Bruins. They put the puck in areas where their own teammates could get the puck, not in areas where Florida could get a takeaway and turn it into a transition rush the other way. That's the kind of hockey Boston's known for, and they got back to it last night. Just a thorough, complete team effort, and back in control. Not totally in control of the series. It is still just 2-1, but certainly much greater control of the series and home ice advantage back on their side again with that victory last night over the Florida Panthers. And for me, very happy to cash both the first period puck line and full game puck line, which was the best bet for me on the show yesterday with the Bruins. Alex, just typical Boston. No excuses. Just show up and work, show up and win, show up and play, and get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a workmanlike effort. That's what we expected from Boston, and they came through with that. And now you look at Florida, they pulled a line and brought in Bobrovsky for a bit, and you wonder, okay, now has that wheel started to kick again? Are they going to go with Lyon in game 4? Or are they going to go with Bobrovsky in game 4? I don't think it matters at this point. If anything, you probably do go with Bobrovsky, being the veteran, see if he can give you a chance to even the series up going back to Boston, and you'd probably trust him to be the one if you do even that series up 2-2 to play game 5 in Boston. So it makes sense to use, like I said, there's a way to utilize when you have this 2 goalie system, or a goalie debate, if you will. Of course, we saw how Minnesota blew that, but Boston, able to just kind of ride the storm. Florida should be able to ride the storm. There's a couple of teams, LA is a team I wouldn't worry about. They had to make a goalie swap, but Florida making that change, I think that's probably where they're going to go now at this point. But I don't think it's going to matter too much. And for all the great wins and close calls we get on the betcast and I get live throughout the regular season, I got absolutely hosed on one yesterday. Goalie pulled, looked like Boston was going to easily pot empty netter, and all of a sudden puck bounces in and Florida gets that goal to make it 4-2. They were reviewing it. Not really sure what they were ever reviewing. It didn't look like there was any kind of interference. It seemed like the whistle was going to be blown a little early, but actually it's a good call because I hate seeing that when the ref just blows the whistle because he's a split second lost the sight of the puck. There was not enough time for him to wait before blowing that whistle. So that goal should have counted, honestly, even though it burned me from a live betting standpoint. I'm glad the refs allowed that goal because the quick whistle, it's one thing to do that, but you have to give at least 2 seconds to see that I can't see the puck anymore. You can't just blow the whistle immediately as soon as it goes underneath the goaltender's pads. So kudos to the refs for getting that call right.
Yeah, it was. And we'll get to some refereeing that was dubious in the late game, by the way, in just a minute. But first, we'll talk Minnesota. Terry Edelman's Minnesota Wild. Look, even for me on Dallas in the series, I figured it was a really good spot for Minnesota last night. And I was on the Wild last night, and they got the job done. Arrested Gustafsson, obviously, in net, who was, once again, excellent. Now, he didn't have to face a ton of shots. They did a really nice job defensively last night, the Wild, and they did outplay the Stars, but a nice win for Minnesota. What was nice, too, is, look, unfortunately, the only thing that went wrong for Alex and I was Kaprizov, because I just had him to score a goal, and of course, he took a shot with the hat trick. He did not end up, obviously, getting on the scoreboard, but it was Zuccarello. And you know what's funny is I took Zuccarello to get an assist because usually that's been where he's chipped in offensively, is setting up his teammates, not scoring. And sure enough, he has 2 beauty goals last night for the Minnesota Wild. But no, great performance. By the way, what the fuck was Marcus Foligno on last night? That guy looked like he snorted some coke or something before the game, or he was just like, a man possessed, or he took some fucking Vicodin or some kind of drug, I think, right before the game, because that guy was like a bat out of hell on the ice last night. He was chirping the Dallas bench. He was, his manic gestures all over the ice. I mean, that like he was just going apeshit last night. It's like he had speed in his system or something. I mean, my goodness. I mean, he was just he couldn't control the guy. And he's flapping his gums all night. He had a great game, by the way. Yeah. Very impactful, physical. Of course, scored the key goal there for the Minnesota Wild in the second period. But it was just, absolutely. He was just he was flying last night in that game. All over the place. He looked like he was bouncing off the walls of XL Energy Center last night during that game. Yeah, Ryan Suter. I don't blame Wild fans for saying he sucks. I mean, he put that organization in peril, essentially, with that contract, but at least from a salary cap perspective, which they're still trying to dig themselves out of right now. But no, solid win for Minnesota. Back to the drawing board for the Dallas Stars. I think what's very interesting going into Game 4, Alex, is Roope Hintz, no points, no shots, invisible. Tyler Seguin, invisible. Jamie Benn, invisible. Jason Robertson, invisible. Jason Robertson looks lost without Joe Pavelski. It's got to be said. I mean, without Joe on the ice, and we talked about how significant the loss of Joe Pavelski would be for the Dallas Stars, he looks like he's lost his soulmate, his best friend. And on the ice, he looks like a shell of the guy right now that we know Jason Robertson can be for the Dallas Stars. And I don't care who's out. That's no excuse for Robertson being this pedestrian so far in the first 3 games of this series. You're a great goal scorer. You're a great offensive talent. You've shown us that the last couple of seasons. Find a way. I know it hurts. Pavelski's been your line mate all year. You've had excellent chemistry with him, but it's the next man up league, and whoever the fuck's with you on that line, if you're Jason Robertson, you got to find a way to step up and make it happen, okay? Because you're too important and too valuable to this team to be this quiet and this silent so far in this series. I don't care that now you're with Hintz and Seguin. Get it done. Find that back of the net. Find ways to get to the traffic areas. Find ways to get to the slot, the areas of the ice where you score at Stanley Cup playoff time. Too much periphery play, from Robertson right now. Got to get to the middle of the ice more. Not doing that well enough right now for the Dallas Stars. And like I said, a whole lot of them. Seguin, Hintz, Robertson, Jamie Benn. I don't blame Wyatt Johnston as much. A 19-year-old rookie, and he's on the road. I don't fault him as much for having a rough game last night. He's young. But what about these veterans? It's time they step up here, and they're going to have to in Game 4. With all due respect to Mason Marchment, it's a problem when he was your best forward last night. Okay? It's a big problem. So Dallas has to fix that. Alex, but a nice win for Minnesota. What did you think?
Yeah, like I said, going into the series, this is one I had circled. Minnesota wins game 3, the first game at home. And like I said, I had that. It was a gut feeling. There was no handicap to it. Like I said, Kaprizov not even playing at 100%, but I just had that feeling watching game 1 that maybe he would show up and have a huge performance in game 3. He did not. But thankfully, like I said, all the other players that normally don't chip in did. And on the flip side with Dallas, and the one thing I was worried about heading into the postseason with the Stars, the one thing that could trip them up is, the guys not showing up. And you mentioned it exactly. How many guys are invisible? Rupe Hintz and Sagan, and like I said, even JR now looking lost without Pavelski, which is a great point and something to definitely identify. He's already missed by not being the net front presence for this team, right? On as far as the top forwards go, and what he does on the power play, all of that's being missed. But now like I said, you've discombobulated arguably the best player on the team. And he's not, familiar with getting adjustment, making the right adjustments on those lines. That's troublesome. Now, thankfully, you still do have Jake Ottinger, who had he laid an egg. He's gonna lay an egg every now and then. He's still, working things out, but he's still a good goalie. Still can steal you a game or two in this series, and game 4 is pivotal for both teams. But I think especially for Dallas. Dallas can't not afford to go back home down 3-1. And at this point, you take the control of the series. And I think it's going to be a much different atmosphere, too, in the next election. It's a big difference between a 9 o'clock Friday start and what's going to be a 5 o'clock local time Sunday start. I don't think we're going to see the same energy necessarily. It's going to be hyped up. It's going to be loud. But I think it's just going to be a little bit different. And Dallas needs to jump out and take the air out of that building immediately in the first 10, 15 minutes of that contest. That's the way they're going to be able to win game 4. Obviously, we'll be talking more about that tomorrow. But it's a good series. I love, like I said, the chippiness and the animosity, the crowd going Suter sucks. Like that's great. That's what playoff hockey is all about. And in this series, the fans have gotten a little bit out of control, bickering amongst each other, especially if you see on social media. And I have no idea. I didn't even try to go out last night to see what the feel of the town was. But I know it was buzzing and busy from about 5 o'clock last night all the way through, which is something you don't say too often about downtown St. Paul, even on a Friday night. So, like I said, just great atmospheres from both teams and a great series.
And of course, with Edmonton, LA, probably the most entertaining game of the night, certainly the most dramatic. It's the only game that obviously went to overtime last night in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But if you're Edmonton, that's a tough one to lose for various reasons. They did outplay LA, outshot LA, outchanced LA. But at the end of the day, this isn't the we win the game because we outshoot you. It's not the more shots wins the game league. It's not the more chances wins the game league. It's more goals. And you've got to find a way to put the puck in the net at the end of the night and give Korpisalo a lot of credit. He was absolutely outstanding once again in this. 3 games in this series, the Kings are up 2-1. And, you could even say that even in the game that they lost, LA, Korpisalo was phenomenal. He has had a really good series for the Los Angeles Kings and showing everybody basically why they ended up trading for him with the Columbus Blue Jackets. We thought this was a good goalie that was stuck on kind of a bad team, and it certainly looks that way with Korpisalo. Now that he's on a much better team, look at him shining, playing extremely well. So to me, look, were there some calls that went against Edmonton, that they say McDavid got hit or slashed or during the games. Yeah, Danault was kind of sitting on him and kind of should have been roughing or unsportsmanlike, something like that. It didn't get called. Yeah. And then they called an Edmonton penalty right after that. Were there a couple calls during the game that went against Edmonton? Yes. That shouldn't have gone against Edmonton? Yes. There's no doubt. I think they had a little bit of a bad whistle at times last night. Yes. The overtime goal, of course, which was won by Trevor Moore, scored by Trevor Moore. Connor McDavid, 2 goals from him. He had a good night. Draisaitl's had a very good series so far for the Oilers. Again, played well enough to win. Overtime, though, Trevor Moore gets the goal. Bad coverage in front of the net, unfortunately, by my fellow Hamiltonian, Darnell Nurse. Hate to see that, but got to cover the man in front of the net better than that. So 3-2 LA, they won in overtime. And, of course, the controversy was, and we thought it was over, and then we realized, wait a minute, Edmonton's challenging, and then we realized what they're challenging, a potential high stick that took place right before the overtime goal. Now, if you look at it with all the certainly all the angles TNT showed, although apparently Sportsnet in Canada, leave it to them to find this angle, showed an angle where did look like the puck grazed the stick of Velarde. And it honestly did look like it maybe grazed the stick. But even in that zoomed in angle that Sportsnet had with it maybe grazing Velarde's stick, I don't even think you could 100,000% say for sure that it hit the stick. It's still, there's that little, 0.5%, 1%, whatever of doubt. And that's the thing with a call like that. They called it goal on the ice. And if they have even just 0.1% of doubt, that there's not irrefutable evidence to overturn it, they got to stick with the call. And that was goal. And that's what ended up happening. So it's a tough one for Edmonton, tough pill, because I think they very well could have grazed the stick. There was that one angle that showed it did, but all the other angles, it didn't. There was no way you could tell that it grazed the stick, that puck. So it's a tough call to go against Edmonton for sure, and a tough way to lose a game where you probably, you carried the play a little bit more than LA did and had the better chances and had the better of the play for sure. But here we go again. It's kind of like Toronto fans in game 1 against Tampa, where they were blaming the refs and blaming the calls. Not that their team sucked and wasn't ready to play right from the opening faceoff. That had nothing to do, in some people's opinion, with them losing game 1 against Tampa. Same thing last night with some Oilers fans, where the only reason that Edmonton lost last night in the eyes of some Oilers fans is that call in overtime that went against them, that no goal, and saying that they got screwed. They lost the game simply because of that. Here's your news flash for you, okay? If you believe that and you're an Edmonton fan, you need to be better as a team. And we've been raving all year about this team has suddenly found some secondary support and some depth in their lineup, especially up front, to help out Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's what we've raved about all season with the Oilers, that all these different guys that have stepped up for them throughout the course of the regular season, other than McDavid and Draisaitl. 104 points from Nugent Hopkins, 83 points from Zach Hyman this year. Evander Kane, even in just 41 games, 28 points this year for the Edmonton Oilers. Well, how about in this playoff series? What have we seen from these guys so far? Evander Kane last night, zip, didn't do anything. Zach Hyman,
bad hit.
Bad hit, bad penalty. Took a stupid penalty. That's about the only impact I saw him make last night in that game. Zach Hyman, 1 point in this series. Zip out of Yamamoto so far in this series. Nothing out of him. Ryan Nugent Hopkins last night, invisible. Really couldn't find him with a telescope last night. That's your problem. That we got great seasons out of Hyman, that we got great seasons out of Yamamoto's capable. Evander Kane was, I think, maybe the star of the playoffs last year for the Edmonton Oilers. And of course, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, 100 points, and couldn't really see him make any sort of impact last night on the game. You need more from those guys. As simple as that. They've got to step up. All right. This can't be the Connor and Leon show. A 2-man operation does not win. All right. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, or I should say 3-man, because I'll throw Bouchard in there because he's been absolutely terrific. Yep. And again, an easy as fuck point prop winner again with Evan Bouchard last night at -120. You just keep betting that every game, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. 3-man operation. You need more from the guy. These are guys that Nugent Hopkins is a 100-point player. He's got to step his game up. Simple. And he's got to show he can do that again in the playoffs. Kane needs to do more. Hyman needs to do more. You've gotten Connor with 2 goals last night. You've had Leon have a good series so far. You need more. And by the way, clear the front of the net, which they didn't do in the Trevor Moore goal. Or else you don't have to worry about that goal being reviewed because it wouldn't have gone in the first place. So there you go. I mean, just be better defensively. Be sound in the front of your net. Don't be soft. Clear the front of the net. They didn't do it on that overtime winner by Trevor Moore. So I get it. You're pissed off about the call. I think it's very possible that could have grazed the stick, especially if you look at the one angle. But I can't accept it. I can't take it. I can't listen to it. I cannot deal with it. People saying that's the only reason we lost that game, that overtime call. I cannot accept that. I will not. There's other reasons, and it's everything I laid out. Where's your secondary support all of a sudden that you've had all year? You haven't had it in the first 3 games of this series. Being hard, being tough in front of the net, not being soft. That's been an issue. Those are issues for Edmonton more than any sort of overtime call that went against them, Alex.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. It's just, and I troll people online a lot, especially on Twitter when it comes to the Oilers and specifically Connor McDavid. It's not hatred toward Connor McDavid or even that team. It's more toward the Connor McDavid fans who think he can do absolutely no fucking wrong. It's just ridiculous how anybody has that look on any player in any sport, truthfully. And when you talk about it being the Connor and Leon show, the reason why that game even goes into overtime is because Leon Draisaitl takes the absolute dumbest of penalties for an unsportsmanlike conduct right after the goal is scored. You put LA right back on the power play. Kempe goes and ties the game up. So even your secondary star is putting you in the jackpot right now and putting you behind the eight ball. And this team has yet to really show. They showed more life in Game 3 than they did in period 3 they did in the first two games, but they still have yet to just play a complete full third period, just go full throttle. And for whatever reason, they can't do that. And they played right into the hands of LA. That game goes in overtime, which I'm very happy about because I had the draw at plus 335, sorry, cash that. And then, even when you look at the challenge for the game-winning goal, right, and they're looking for, this stick, graze, they spent about 10 minutes looking for that because it's the Oilers and it's Connor McDavid. And if we could find a way to keep this game rolling, then we will. But they couldn't, and then the fans all up in arms now. It's like, no, you should have gotten to overtime in this spot. You should have been able to take the reins and win this game in regulation if you're Edmonton. They should have done exactly what LA did in game 1. You're supposed to shift that momentum back your way, and they just did not put the effort together to do that. Like you said, all the secondary guys that are quiet now. You can't rely on just McDavid and Draisaitl to do everything for you, especially when you have this Kings team that's not going to go away. That they're playing balanced hockey, and they're getting more into a rhythm. And the further this series goes on, the stronger LA is going to get, the stronger Korpisalo is going to get, as you mentioned. He's gaining his confidence and energy, and it just seems like that confidence shift. It's not so much them gaining the energy. It's almost that they're taking the confidence away from Edmonton with every quality play they make, with every goal they score, with every good period they have. And Edmonton's just letting it happen. They're just laying back and letting shit happen. And it's unacceptable. You think this team would have learned after last year, getting all the way to the conference finals and then getting swept, how to manage this and playing this team just a year ago? No, they look like this is an opponent they're not even familiar with, and it's fucking division rival. So it's madness to me, and I would love to see. Like I said, I don't really have a dog in the fight. I want the series to go 6 games. But I'd love to see LA go on and just run them out at this point.
Wow, there you go. Run them out. Tired of this Edmonton team is Alex and the McDavid adulation. But yeah, I think the series is going 7. I actually like Edmonton in Game 4. I think after everything that went down last night. And again, still a very good road team all year, even with the loss last night. I think they were probably a good play tomorrow.
The look there is Edmonton first period. Everything Edmonton first period. If they don't come out of there in the first 20 minutes with I would say a 2-goal lead, yeah, they might be in trouble. They
should be us against the world, because that's which actually should benefit anybody looking to bet Edmonton tomorrow. Is that they're probably feeling, look at the penalties that went against us earlier in the game. McDavid's not getting a call, but they call an Edmonton penalty right after that. Oh, look at the overtime goal that they allowed to stand, even though we think it grazed the stick. Oh, bullshit. Damn that LA. They're getting all the calls and all that. They should come out pissed in Game 4 and come out with the lead in Game 4 in the first period. I agree. The first period.
And they all clearly believe it, because you heard Jay Woodcroft in the post press to go, well, the greatest player in the world.
I'll believe the greatest player in the world is 3 feet away.
And then he rolls his hand up. Well, he's not the fucking referee. He can't make that call just because he rolls his hand up. Now we're supposed to all just stop and say, like, oh, wait, Connor McDavid's got a question. Like, not saying fucking first grade. Like, get the hell out of here.
And I like Jay. Jay's an articulate guy. He's intelligent. He's very well spoken.
I do too. He's a great coach.
I love his press conferences. He gives you so much. Like, he's not just one of those 2-word answer guys. Doesn't give you anything. He does. It's like a Paul Maurice type. He's actually right up there, with guys like Paul Maurice that are going to give you really good press conferences. But that's a little bit of a, can I have some cheese with that wine moment there for Jay Woodcroft last night. That's for sure, saying that. But nevertheless, let's see if that fuels Edmonton, because I'm sure they're feeling a little bit, well, I know they're pissed off, after last night. They should be pissed off at just as much, if not more, at themselves, than the refs or the calls that were made last night. But if anything, let's see if that fuels them for Game 4, because I do think they're sitting in a pretty good spot in a series that I still think is going 7 games between the Oilers and the Kings, just like it did last year between the two teams. All right, let's go to Saturday's action. We've got 4 games on tap. We'll begin with an afternoon affair, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific to get the Saturday started. The Vegas Golden Knights and Winnipeg Jets. This is a 3 p.m. Central local time start, by the way, in Winnipeg. Minus 115 home favorites are the Jets, 5.5 being the total in this game. This is TBS, by the way, TBS for 3 of the 4 games today in the U.S. The triple header, Vegas, Winnipeg, Toronto, Tampa, Colorado, Seattle, they're all TBS games. Rangers, Devils is the lone exception, which is ABC standalone game at 8 p.m. Eastern. So as far as this one goes, look, a Winnipeg team that in the first 4 periods of this series, it was all Jets. Like Vegas did absolutely nothing in the first game. They got completely shut down. They looked like they were stuck in mud, couldn't skate with Winnipeg. It was so bizarre still to see that, especially when you watch the last 2 periods of game 2, where all of a sudden Vegas comes back to life, taking the play to Winnipeg, winning puck battles, carrying the play significantly in the last 2 periods. And you'll have to ask yourself, like, where the hell was that, in the first game, in the first period of game 2? And then all of a sudden, it looked to me like the Vegas Golden Knights just got to their game. I thought Marchessault, Riley Smith, William Karlsson, and in particular, Jack Eichel, and even more in particular, Mark Stone had excellent games for Vegas in game 2, especially in the last 2 periods as they came back from a early deficit there to take game 2 by a score of 5-2 over the Winnipeg Jets. And look, they go from 17 shots on goal in game 1. I still can't believe that they had 17 shots on goal on home ice in game 1. Vegas, that's it, 17. It's stunning how they were completely bottled up. And yet in game 2 and in game 3, or game 2 in the last 2 periods, they got to their game. They ended up almost having 40 shots on goal in game 2. So definitely some momentum for Vegas, but back home now, Winnipeg team that as all season, they've been very good on home ice, 26-15. Vegas pretty good on the road, though, all things considered, 26-15 for them on the road. But, pretty much even in home and road wins for Vegas. But there is a difference. Winnipeg does have more home wins. I think they're going to feed off the crowd early. I think Winnipeg in the first period does appeal to me. I like the Jets early, first 20 minutes here in this game. You can get it at minus 110, even money. You could even, if you really want some bang for your buck, go with the -0.5, and you're going to get one hell of a price with that. But I don't think I want to get greedy this time, especially when the first period money line is just even money. Like if the first period money line was in that -140, range or higher, I'd go for the -0.5. But I'm going to play it a little more safe here, -110 with first period on the Winnipeg Jets. I do like them too in the full game, but I like the first period look a little bit more, just because I think that first 20 minutes with the whiteout in effect, the crowd on their side, back home after that tough loss. And also I want to point out, bounce back Hellebuck is a very real thing. When he gets lit up for 5 goals, especially in the previous game, not that it was all his fault. I don't think you could blame him for many of the goals. Rick Bowness said after the game, I always say, throw me a freaking bonus here. The Austin Powers line. But Rick Bowness after the game said, it was just breakdowns in front of our net, and we just very disappointing in just how we defended in our own end in the last 2 periods. So none of the blame really placed on Connor Hellebuck. And if anything, they'll probably want to tighten up, play better in front of him. And I think he'll play and step up and have a much better game. I don't have the numbers, and I was trying to find them for the show here before the game, because I can find them if I wanted, but I was so rushed and tight for time. That's why we started the show a little bit late. But I can tell you, without knowing it for the exact record, his record in the regular season off a loss is great, Hellebuck, and off especially 4 or 5 goals allowed in the previous start, and especially in the playoffs too. He's been excellent in these spots where off a loss, and especially where he's given up 4 or 5 goals in the previous game. Connor Hellebuck's just been razor sharp, airtight in the next start. So I like Winnipeg first period full game money line split, and I'm going to go with that. But I think I like the first period part of that equation just a little bit more. Alex, what do you think here? Game 3, Vegas, Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm targeting too, first period, but I'm going with the over 1.5. You can now grab this as low as $1.05 at a few shops. I got $1.10 yesterday evening. I don't see where this game starts off tight, especially with Winnipeg. Like I said, that whiteout atmosphere and an early start time to boot on that, I think that's going to be absolutely electric, and we're going to see that energy translate right onto the ice, honestly. And I think we're going to see probably 2, maybe even 3 goals. So I'd even sprinkle a little bit on that over 2 if you can find one of those at MGM or some of the books where you can adjust the totals. I think we see goals here early, and then we see things really kind of clamp down late. That's why I want nothing to do with the side here. I wouldn't even play, like I said, because I have the personal bet of 3 games in this series to go to overtime at 8-1. I'm definitely not playing this draw individually because I'm seeing it as cheap as -300, and that is my absolute floor for betting a draw. Anything below 300, I'm not going to bet that individually. And then we might actually start seeing that if we see some lower scoring games and we see this game go to overtime. We might see a 280 or 290 price at some point at some of these books. So that is something I don't recommend. I like that prop at plus 300 or better at any point of the year, regular season or playoffs. So that's something to keep a note of. But I do think this is a close enough game, and I think we can cash at least one of the 3 OTs we need finally in this series. Or well, no, actually we have one. We need 2. So Vegas and Winnipeg. I like a close game. I like goals in the first period. So we're going first period over, but I think things will slow down. We might even have time to grab a live under potentially, depending on how that first period shakes out and see where things go in the second. But nothing on the side here.
All right, nothing on the side here for Alex with this one as far as the Vegas and Winnipeg, but does like the first period over. I don't know if, like I said, I was expecting to be betting some draws here in this series, and I was on the draw in each of the first 2 games. I get the sense this one, I don't know if it's for sure going to go to overtime. I could see Winnipeg winning and not it needing overtime. I think to be able to win in regulation, I think they might be able to do that. So I might lay off the draw. I'm always tempted because of the nature of how these 2 teams are capable of playing. But for me, I think I'll just stick probably with the first period and the full game money line looks toward the Winnipeg Jets. As far as props go for this game, there are a couple. I think at home here, Kyle Connor. I mean, just go with the guys you really trust. I mean, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, I think here, especially at home. Mark Scheifele is one of those players lately. He's been doing most of his damage at home. They're good goal props. I think the value on Mark Stone, who got his game going in game number 2 for the Vegas Golden Knights, he got really rolling offensively there late. Is you can get him as high as plus 260, plus 275 even, to score a goal. I think for a guy that got some swagger back in the last game, that's not a bad option to look at a Mark Stone goal prop here either. For the Vegas Golden Knights in this one. This might be a good save prop night, too, for the Vegas goalie. We assume it's going to be Laurent Brossoit again, obviously. So definitely, I think Brossoit over saves. Very much interested in that as well. All right, let's turn our attention to the East because this is the next game on the slate tonight. Toronto Maple Leafs, Tampa Bay Lightning. This is 7 p.m. Eastern, the second of the 3 TBS games. We've got Toronto slight road favorites here, -120. And the total 6.5 here. The latest from Tampa Bay's camp is that it looks like Hedman's playing tonight because he took the ice for the morning skate for the Lightning. So that sure looks like a clear-cut indicator, fairly clear-cut anyway, that he's going to make his return for the Lightning. And after what we saw in Game 2, not a moment too soon that he returns to the lineup for Tampa Bay tonight. Eric Chernak is out, though. It looks like Mikey Eyssimont, who, of course, came over from San Jose at the deadline, may play here as well. This is one of those games where, look, I still think Toronto's better this time around, but I'm not off a loss like that. I'm not in a rush to bet against Tampa Bay coming back home in a series that could have that back and forth feel. So I really want nothing to do with the side, nothing to do at all with the side. I think if you like Tampa, you go the first period route. I think that's your better option because I could see Tampa the fast start. Toronto climbs back into the game, maybe even comes back to win it. But I do think early in the game after the shellacking they took in Game 2, and especially with the prospect of Hedman returning to the ice here tonight for the Tampa Bay Lightning, that the first period probably Tampa Bay is worth a look here in this one. But I'm off the side. I'm looking at the over again in this game. Now, I got 6 at -120. I don't think there are any 6s out there right now. I think it's pretty much moved to 6.5 everywhere right now. So I still endorse it, but, just having the 6 was, it's a nice comfort, in case for some reason it's a 4-2, final score like we saw with Florida and Boston last night. But it is worth noting, we saw these teams just get into a firefight and a track meet up and down last year in their first round series head-to-head, and we saw every game go over the total until game 6. The first elimination game of the series is essentially the first time we saw things slow down, and the defense and the focus on playing an airtight, solid game defensively was on display. It took until game 6 last year between these two teams for that to happen. Every game until then went over the total. So already first 2 games of this series this year have gone over. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's where I'm going, over the total. Alex, Toronto, Tampa.
Yeah, it makes total sense to look over the entire way until this gets into, as they say, in boxing, the championship rounds. As you get to the elimination, stages of 5, 6, and 7, that's when we tend to see these two teams kind of tighten up. That's what they did last year, game 6 and 7 going under the total. But with this matchup, this is one I'm probably just going to stay out of altogether. Like I said, you can make a case for the first period over. You can make a case for the full game over here. But I think we might see a little bit more of a slower pace potentially, especially if Tampa Bay. Obviously, this is going to be one of those games. If Tampa Bay wins, it's going to be Vasilevsky's ceiling, right? That's the way that I feel. We're going to see him bounce back and play a much tighter game. But I just don't trust in that. I don't trust in the defense in front of him, or the lack of defense, I should say, in front of him. And like I said, I think Toronto can carry this momentum on the road. They should be able to. So I would have to lean, if I had to bet anything, it would be Toronto money line. But I think I'm going to stay out of this one and try to chip away at it alive, most likely.
All right, looking at maybe a live bet here for Alex with the Leafs and the Lightning here in this one. I think that we will get one game in this series go to over. Now, last year, the same thing. Game 6 was the first overtime game of the series. It was the only overtime game. I think it's going to be later in the series we see an overtime game. Just the way this has started, especially with teams off, lopsided losses. I don't love the draw on games like that in the playoffs, because the lopsided loss, sometimes the tendency is we see another one in the next game, not always that tighter, close game. So this is a tricky game. It really is, because we know Tampa off a loss for all these years. They've been in the Stanley Cup playoffs, going to the finals 3 years in a row, winning the Stanley Cup 2 of those 3 years. That they've been money in the bank off a loss. And I'm very hesitant to bet against them off a loss. So, but I also think, Toronto's just, I think they're better. I do. I still think that, even though game 1 was brutal for them. So that's why I don't have to bet it. We can watch, see how this game goes. Bet the side, that is. We can watch and see how it starts, and we can go from there. Maybe the first period, both teams to score, I might sprinkle on. We'll see. I could see that hitting. I think this might be one of those games where that both teams to score first period definitely might be worth a look. I could see each team finding the back of the net in the first. I certainly think Tampa will, coming off the blowout loss in game 2 back home. They could strike early in the game, but I think Toronto could as well. So that first period, both teams to score. Nice plus price too, plus 150. In some books there with that first period, both teams to score. So that's definitely something that appeals to me a little bit there in that game. And as far as props go, I think there are some props for Tampa that appeal to me in that game, because I think when you look at it, who's got to step up? Kucherov, Braden Point, Stamkos. Those are the guys that are going to have to deliver tonight, after a blowout loss like they had against Toronto in game 2. So don't overthink it. I think if you're going to bet Tampa props, especially the goal props, point props, that's who you focus on. You focus on Nikita Kucherov, focus on Steven Stamkos, you focus on Braden Point. I thought Braden Point was very quiet in game 2. That's very unlike him to be as unnoticeable, as he was in game 2. So in particular, Braden Point, I think, might have at least one goal tonight, maybe more than that here tonight in this game. But again, getting Victor Hedman back is huge. Obviously, they missed Chernak too. I mean, don't sleep on Chernak being out either. That's a physical defenseman, good in his own end, plays the body, is very, very responsible more often than not. Sure, huge they have Hedman back for sure. But the Chernak loss is also, one that definitely they miss as well, because especially at playoff time with what he can deliver on the blue line. And obviously the goaltending matchup will be most likely the same, of course, Samsonov and Vasilevsky. Great stuff. Hit the like button. We appreciate it. 210 live viewers here on YouTube. And shout out to everyone listening on the podcast version of the Ice Guys show as well. We'll be back with the remaining 2 games on this Saturday slate right after we hear from Gramco.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta 8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta 8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta 8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code Ice Guys, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta 8 products today.
All right, good stuff indeed. I'm scaling back, by the way, a little bit on the player props today. That's why I haven't mentioned a ton of them here. We went a little crazy with the goals and the assists last night, and in some of these games, we didn't see it, obviously. So, yeah, we're being a little more cautious here today with the player props. But if you ask me in the first two games, like I say, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele in the Winnipeg for the Jets, I think Mark Stone for Vegas, and Braden Point for Tampa Bay are probably some of my favorite prop players today. I mean, those ones I feel really strong that they're going to make an impact for their respective teams here in the games tonight. All right, next up, we've got the New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils. This is the one game that is not on the Turner family of networks today. This is on ABC, their Saturday night game, Rangers and Devils. With Sean McDonough, Ray Ferraro, Emily Kaplan on hand. Actually, I've got this wrong. It should be New Jersey listed first, and it should be Game 3, not Game 2. We'll clean that up. We've got the New York Rangers now up to minus 155. Am I seeing that? Yeah, minus 155 in some spots. So this already opened minus 140 on the Rangers here, and now we're seeing minus 155. Home favorites here, the New York Rangers here in this game. So a lot of money coming in on the Rangers, people reacting to what they saw in New Jersey. Was this team with all that playoff experience, playoff pedigree, just looked like they were outclassing the New Jersey Devils. And certainly there was an element of that in game 1 and 2. It looks like it's a Rangers team with the playoff experience taking on a Devils team that's just, wide-eyed and just seeing this playoff stuff for the first time. There's definitely some truth to that. But to me, this is not just about experience versus inexperience. This is about physicality and a level of toughness that you've got to bring to the dance at Stanley Cup playoff time that New Jersey's been unable to match. I think New Jersey's played soft physically. I think from a physical standpoint, they're getting manhandled in this series. Let's be honest. The one thing about the Rangers is not only do they have the weapons, with Chris Kreider, who's had an incredible series. By the way, how do you not just take his goal props right now? They can't defend him. Like, they don't have the physicality to handle that guy in front of the net, especially on the man advantage right now. The New York, the Devils, they can't handle him. So I think you got to take Kreider props again. Adam Fox assist, we've talked about that, continues to be worth a look in this series. This is a good prop game for me, definitely, in this one. Kane and Tarasenko, of course, made an impact in game 2. Zibanejad's the only one that's been pretty quiet, but, especially back home, don't be shocked if he even finds his game and makes hits the score sheet here tonight for the New York Rangers. But, the Devils definitely have had their share of struggles in this series, but they have been very good on the road. I think there's a level of we're not quitting. I don't think they're quitters, the Devils, for as young a team as they are. I don't think they're going to roll over completely. I actually do think the Devils are worth a look in the first period tonight, but that's it. That's as far as I'm going with it. Because if they don't have a good first period tonight, say the Rangers are up 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, whatever, they're feeding off the MSG crowd, it's over for them. The game's over, and most likely the series is over for the New Jersey Devils. If it's not going to be there for them, a step-up effort, boxing out in front of the net, which they've not been able to do, staying out of the penalty box, which they've not been able to do, if all of that shit doesn't show up for them early in this game tonight, it's curtains. So to me, New Jersey's not winning this game without winning the first period. So that's why I'm attacking the first period here in this game. They're not winning the game without winning the first period. I don't see them on the road already being down 2-0. This great Rangers team, this great goaltender, and Igor Shesterkin, who's been excellent in this series. I don't see the Devils coming back from an early deficit. If they win the game, they're winning the first period because they started well. That's the way I see this game going. So I will take that shot with that desperate team down 0-2. Going on the road where the Devils have been better. Hell, they maybe even be more relaxed on the road. Who knows? They have played great hockey away from home this year, the Devils, all season long. So I'm going to grab a little plus 120 with the New Jersey Devils here in the first period. And I'm also going to go to the over for the full game, over 5.5 here at minus 120. There's been no adjustment with this total so far in this series. Both games have gone over the total. I'm usually in a playoff series, you see the first two games end up 5-1, 5-1, and both games go over the total. Usually you see up the total get it bumped up to 6 more often than not. But you didn't see it. And I continue to be stunned by that they have just not bumped this total off the 5.5 that we have seen so far throughout this series. So, hey, if they're not going to move it off 5.5, I'm happy to bet it. Very happy to bet it. So Devils Rangers over 5.5 here for me, minus 120. And I like Devils in the first period plus 125. And like I said, with the props, I think on the Rangers side, you stick with the guys that are rolling for you. Kreider, Fox to get an assist. I definitely think that. I think Philip Hedl now back home because I think he did a lot of damage at home last year in the playoffs. Philip Hedl, he did score the empty net goal in game 1. I think this is a time for Philip Hedl to step up, to get back on track as well, or not back on track, but make an impact and find the back of the net. For the Devils, I mean, you look at it, it's everybody. Jack Hughes, other than the penalty shot goal he had in game 1, he's been very tepid in this series. If there's going to be some kind of thrust back into the series, it's got to come from him here tonight. I like Eric Howla's game. Eric Howla has been very noticeable for New Jersey. He's been one of their better forwards, even in the 2 losses. At plus 375, I bet MGM a little sprinkle for him to find the back of the net again like he did in game 2. I don't mind that whatsoever. So definitely liking that. I'm kind of interested maybe in a Shesterkin over saves too, because this is one of those games where New Jersey's got to fire everything they can at the net, but they've had a problem generating shots. That's the only fear I have. They've had a problem generating shots. They've had a problem, with puck possession. Devils in the first 2 games, they've only had 23 and 28 shots on goal. That's not going to, cash an over saves prop. So in theory, this is a spot where you should expect New Jersey maybe to be on the attack, to carry the play a bit more, being the desperate team down 0-2. So that's my thinking and leaning with Shesterkin over saves, but it's not easy to pull the trigger when you see just how low the shot volume has been for the Devils in the first 2 games of this series. And the big news for New Jersey is in net. I know Pearl of Wisdom is probably doing a happy dance in his home right now at the news that Akira Schmid is going to end up starting in goal here for the New Jersey Devils, that the savior has come to rescue this series for the New Jersey Devils here with in Perlo's mind with Akira Schmid. Now, look, his numbers this year are solid, very good, actually. But come on, it's playoffs. It's on the road. Let's see what he's made of. We have no idea how he's going to play. And I think until proven otherwise, we're going to see how much better he is than Vitek Vanacek, if at all. This is his chance to prove it. And this is a chance for Perlo to, he's gone on and on and on Twitter the last 2 days about Akira Schmid being a big-time difference maker and the much better option in net for the New Jersey Devils. Well, let's take a look tonight. Let's see. Let's watch. Let's see if he can step up for the Devils in their time of need, because obviously they lose this game, series over. Alex, what do you think here? Devils, Rangers.
I'm on 3 plays as of right now, but once Schmid is confirmed officially, I will have probably as many as 8 plays on this game in this series. Right now, I have the first period over 1.5. I got that at minus $1.20. You shop around, you can find that a little bit cheaper, $1.15 range, $1.20. Like I said, New Jersey, if they're going to show any kind of life, they have to do it in the first period. There's going to be goals. I think that we might see goals both ways, but New Jersey's going to have to help chip in. So that's why I'm looking at that first period over. Should have cashed in game 2. We got it in game 1, and it really should have been 4 goals in game 1 with the pace that they were playing with. So I anticipate that to continue. With that being said, I'm also on over 5.5. Like I said, they're still giving it to us. We're still going to take that as well. I also like Rangers team total over 3.5 at plus 115. I'm seeing it as high as plus 121, 125. Love that play more than anything else, regardless of who starts in net. This Rangers offense has just been clicking right now, and it's hard to see them. Even if they lose, I could see this being – if New Jersey can get off to the start they need to get off to, right, it has to be a hot start early. There's going to be goals. So it could easily be a 6-4 Devils win. We cash our 3.5 over with the Rangers. So I feel very comfortable in that hitting, regardless of how the game ends. But if it is officially Kira Schmid, I will be looking at taking a little piece of Rangers to sweep at 4-0 at plus 200. That's at BetMGM. Rangers to win series 4-1 at plus 300. I'll be playing that small. I'll also be looking at Patrick Kane props. Kane anytime goal scorer plus 210. Kane power play points over a half at plus 175. I definitely think that this would be a very bad move to start Akira Schmid, and it would pretty much signal the beginning of the end for this Devils team as far as I'm concerned. So I think we're probably going to see that happen based on the likelihood. Like I said, a couple places that already kind of confirmed it. I'm seeing Daily Faceoff has it as likely. If that's the case, then okay. This is the way they want to play it. The Rangers will probably put it into the series by the weekend. So, like I said, already on 3 plays, but that could increase to, like I said, almost as many as 8 once that is officially confirmed.
Yeah, we'll see. Schmid this year again, but again, limited sample size, 18 games. Numbers are decent.
He's not that guy. Akira Schmid is not that guy, right? That's in full stop period. He's not that guy.
He's not that guy. Well, last year, 833 save percentage and a 4.83 goals against average. So, that's why. I mean, you actually combine it this year's better numbers, which are better for him, with last year's numbers. It's still not exactly someone that, wow, I've got their huge boatload of faith and confidence in them in a game we've got to win here tonight in this game. So we'll see how it goes for the young kid, but tough spot to be in here, with your team obviously down 2-0 now going on the road. But I do like them in the first period. I still do, New Jersey here tonight. I think in the first 20 minutes, that's where they got to show it. That's where they've got to come out with that urgency here tonight in Game 3. All right, next up, the final game of this Saturday slate, West first round, Game 3. What an atmosphere at Climate Pledge tonight. It should be in Seattle, the first ever home playoff game in franchise history for the Seattle Kraken. Colorado minus 150, road favorites, 6 the total in this game. A very hectic 24 hours for John Forsland and Eddie Olczyk in particular. They were calling Edmonton, LA last night for TNT. They're actually doing this game, not for TBS, though. They're doing this game for the local Seattle broadcast, of course, of this game for Root Sports Northwest. They're on the local call. I think it's Alex Faust and Patrick Sharp for TBS tonight for the Avs and the Kraken. But I can't wait to see this atmosphere here tonight in Seattle. It should be electric, you would think. I mean, first ever playoff game. I find that at times in the regular season, the Seattle crowd has been a little bit quiet, not quite, a little tepid, in terms of the noise, but I don't expect that tonight. This is the first playoff game at home in franchise history. You're in the playoffs now. Keep in mind, Seattle had a very mediocre home record this year as well. So, that probably played a part in it as well as far as the noise factor is concerned in the arena. But certainly I think they'll be fired up in Seattle, the Emerald City, for this first home playoff game. And if you look at the first 2 games of this series and you look at all the matchups in the regular season between Colorado and Seattle, you will find that Seattle has not taken a back step all that much to Colorado at all. You go back to October this year, 3-2 Seattle. They won in Colorado. Then in Seattle, Colorado returned the favor with a narrow 2-1 shootout victory. Then in Colorado, Seattle won again, 3-2 in overtime on March the 5th. And in the first 2 games of this playoff series, Seattle with the 3-1 win in Game 1. And then Colorado, even though they were a lot better, especially in the last 2 periods of Game 2, and they won 3-2, it was not an easy game. They still had to hang on at the end just to preserve the victory. I mean, we have seen enough now with these 2 teams that I ain't laying minus 150 with Colorado tonight. Especially when I think this Seattle team is going to come out flying for the first home playoff game. This is another first period angle for me, kind of like with Winnipeg. I really do like Seattle in the first period here tonight. I think that first period, you get their best flying in front of the home fans in that first 20 minutes. coming off the loss as well. I think you get that great effort early in the hockey game from the Kraken. Colorado's a great road team. There's no doubt. I mean, 29-12, outstanding on the road. And we know Seattle's been mediocre at home, which is why I really am focusing more on the first period look here with Seattle. I think that's the best way to approach this matchup tonight. They have the strong start after the loss in game 2. You think they want to come out flat, come out lethargic, come out playing bad hockey in the first period of their first ever home game in franchise history in the postseason? I think not. So I think that first 20 minutes is where you're going to get Seattle really playing on their toes, on their game, pushing the play. I don't think they like that they, finally let that Colorado attack come at them in waves, and especially in the third period, where it finally looked like last year's Avalanche team that won the Stanley Cup. It took really until the third period of game 2 to see that, but you saw it with Makar and Byram and Taves getting involved in the offense, activating from the blue line. Obviously, McKinnon and Rantanen doing their thing. Devon Taves with the big game-winning goal, 3-2. I am still concerned tonight and moving forward in this series, Alex, about this depth, third line and fourth line or lack of scoring for Colorado. They've still got to worry about that a little bit. A lot of this has been top-heavy so far. McKinnon and Rantanen and the defensemen scoring a lot of their goals so far in this series. I mean, they've got to still get a little bit more from your third and your fourth line, where Seattle, they got something from their third and their fourth line in the first 2 games in the series. The Morgan Geekie goal in game 2 is a perfect example of it. So I like this Seattle first period look. I mean, at some point, you'd like to think we're going to get a high-scoring game between these two teams, but regular season and playoffs combined, we're now looking at 5-0 to the under between these two teams, and none of the games have totaled more than 5. So I'm off the total. I'm going to have to see an over before I'm ready to bet one at this point with these two teams right now. And let's keep in mind, too, these are 2 goaltenders that, especially in the last game, really on top of it. Georgiev was outstanding when that game was 2. Yes. Man, some of the saves he made, especially in the second period late, and when Seattle had that power play, and then there was a short-handed odd man rush the Kraken at, and he made an incredible right pad save going post to post. And of course, Grubauer, that's why I think it might be tough to see overs in this series. This guy's playing with the chip of the world on his shoulders after Colorado cut bait with him 2 seasons ago. Grubauer wants to stick it to them. So you got 2 pretty damn good goaltenders right now going at it. So tough to bet an over when you see that. What do you think here, Alex? Game 3, a good one, Colorado, Seattle.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Like you say, the goaltenders were playing their asses off in that game, especially Grubauer in that third period, the saves that he made. It was just absolutely unbelievable. So, like I said, it's going to be tough to get goals in bunches, but I think we're going to see scoring early. And I like the first period over here. And it's the same thought process you have looking at Seattle first period, right? Like that crowd momentum and that atmosphere, it's the first time ever. One of 2 things is going to happen. Seattle's going to ride that wave and get off to a hot start, score some goals, get out to a lead, or Colorado, the experienced defending Stanley Cup champions, are going to know how to take that air out of that room, and they're going to come out with a couple of goals of their own.
And not only that, too, but with Colorado, you said coming out strong with the experience, it also could be there's too much adrenaline. There's too much, excitement, and just, just you're so giddy for Seattle that, exactly, you'd make mistakes. Yep.
You see that happen quite often. Think about teams who haven't made a playoff run in years or made a playoff appearance in years. That first game, you tend to see that burnout kind of thing. So it happens every once in a while too. So that's it. Kind of what I'm leaning toward. If I had to play that's why I want nothing to do with the side. And even Seattle, I wouldn't lean towards Seattle sides tonight because that burnout factor could be huge. And if Colorado jumps up to a 2-0, 3-0 lead, Seattle has the horses to come back, not necessarily come back and win. So I don't want anything to do with a side here. Total full game, staying away from 2. Like you mentioned, we haven't been seeing scoring happen late. And the fact that they haven't moved this thing down kind of makes me wonder, this might be the game we see the explosion of goals. Maybe we see this one go way over the total. And the books know that because they know if you set a 5.5 here now and it goes over, well, then they just come right back to 6. Now they still have wiggle room to, if this is a big enough explosion of goals, game 4 is going to be a 6, and it's probably going to be juiced higher the over, maybe even start looking at 6.5s. So definitely want to stay away from the total there in the full game, but definitely want to rock the first period total. I got it over 1.5 minus $1.10.
back to the well with the first period over for Alex here with Colorado and Seattle. Should be interesting to see how this game plays out, but definitely exciting atmosphere is what it should be in Seattle for the first playoff home game in franchise history. And you know what's funny about, and puck luck, it's a good point, Grubauer, the home numbers for him this year, they're not great, but let's be honest, Grubauer's numbers altogether for much of the season weren't great.
Right.
You know, but this has been a great Grubauer in the first 2 games. He's been excellent. You know, he was phenomenal in game 1. I don't even think he was that bad in game 2, even though they lost 3-2. I thought in the third period he was doing all he could for as long as he could to keep that game tied. There's one puck he'd want back. The bad rebound he spit back out, which led to Taves scoring that 3-2 goal. He had a real shoddy rebound there. You know, you got to control that a little bit better. But other than that, I mean, you can't complain about the way he played.
And yeah, great point of that, because I actually had Seattle to score next goal when that goal came in, and it was off of the momentum of Grubauer making those saves. I thought they were going to be able to ride that wave, and they had everything going in their direction. But like I said, just one mistake by Grubauer, and it backfired on him. But he's played well, and this is arguably the healthiest we've seen Grubauer, right? Like, he's dealt with these injuries off and on all season, and in and out, kind of recovering from things. So this is the healthiest Grubauer we've seen as well, and that's something to kind of take consideration when you're looking at his numbers during the regular season. He wasn't playing at full strength like he is right now, so you got to take it a little bit of grain of salt.
Yeah, there is, by the way, and in the NBA, I know there's people that buy into this theory big time in a playoff series, and I think even in the NHL, there's some people that look at this. When the first 2 games in one venue, both of them stay under or they go over, a lot of people like to look at the opposite in the game 3 in the change in venue. So, for instance, and I'm going against the grain with that theory with Devils Rangers. I've been on the over in the first 2 games, and I'm sticking with the over in game 3. But I know there'll be some people thinking first 2 games in Jersey go over, change in venue. You know, very important game for the Devils. This is the one that goes under after the first 2 games went over. And then there's some people that'll think for Colorado, Seattle, first 2 games in Denver went under, change in venue. It'll now all of a sudden we'll switch and see an over tonight in game 3. There's people that handicap that way. Multiple people I know that handicap playoff series that way with totals. First 2 stay under, they change venues, but it's the opposite that happens in game 3. So keep that in mind. But I still treat it individual matchups. But I know there's people that buy into that.
If this particular game, Colorado-Seattle, goes over tonight, I would be looking at an under in game 4, because, like I said, we're still going to see at 6, maybe in a 6.5. That's what I would target it under.
Yeah, I think if you like the over, if you're going to bet the over in this game tonight, and at 5.5, if I see a 5.5, if it dips to 5.5 somewhere before puck drop, I might have to bet it
early in game
pinch. Or wait in game, exactly, for a little bit, 5.5. With just, I think, the pace that we're going to see tonight between these 2 teams. But, yeah, 5.5, I'd be a little bit interested. But another thing to keep in mind, too, is that you look at it as well with this total being 6, and you could see an adjustment, too, if this game does go over. And then you get back, as Alex said, to the under in the next game. So keep that in mind. But yeah, at 5.5, I'd be just slightly a little bit interested in the over, but it's still 6 to the under pretty much at every book right now. And again, 5.5, it's a perfect opportunity to maybe look for it live during the game. You know what I like tonight is that these are 2 guys that I've been counted upon for Seattle this year all season. They've been great. And they've been kind of quiet, especially the first 2 games in Denver. I think this is the night they make their mark again. You know the 2 guys. They've been just point machines, goal machines for Seattle. Jared McCann and Vince Dunn. Vince Dunn, the defenseman, and Jared McCann up front. I think it's their night to finally step into the playoff spotlight here and make an impact. So any props involving McCann and Dunn tonight, I do like in this game. Wenberg and Tolvanen, if you're looking for a little value on the Seattle side. For Colorado, look, it's difficult to bet props on anybody to make an offensive impact other than, McKinnon, Rantanen, Taves, and Makar right now. And by the way, Devon Taves continues to be extremely undervalued. I think he's had a hell of a series. And this guy with the Islanders, they thought he was just a defensive defenseman, and what a friggin' mistake that was. And they traded him away because they felt they needed more offensive-minded defensemen. He goes to Colorado. He's been great offensively, just like he's been great defensively as a blue liner. So Devon Taves has been great. His point prop is a very reasonable -108 at FanDuel. I mean, how do you not bet that? He has just been, he's been involved in a lot of the great chances and some of the goals here lately for the Colorado Avalanche. So that continues to be just spectacular value for Devon Taves just to get a point at -108. Phenomenal. It's kind of like Bouchard for Edmonton. Totally undervalued, as far as his point prop right now. No question. All right, good stuff. That is the Saturday card. We're looking forward to it. Shout out to everyone watching live on YouTube, 212 live viewers. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And as well to our podcast listeners, a reminder, check out patreon.com/Ice Guys. Just $10 a month. Goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, a daily Ice Guys show betting card, and bonus content. Make sure you check it out. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. Just $10 a month. Check it out.
Also, check out the Ice Guys store at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. What you should do today is go on the site, browse around, check out some of the new items we have, put it in your cart, and leave it there. Don't buy it today. Wait until tomorrow, because tomorrow will start 4 days of 20% off everything at the Ice Guys store. So check out what you want now, buy it tomorrow, and save yourself a little bit of cash in the process. So iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
And a reminder to our next Ice Guys Stanley Cup Playoffs live betcast, which will be our second Stanley Cup Playoffs live betcast this Tuesday night, April the 25th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Live betting and commentary, myself, Alex B. Smith. We've got, of course, our viewers and listeners, as they always do, joining us on the betcast. And if you want to join us on the betcast on Tuesday night, DM me at Bobano on Twitter or email bobano350@gmail.com to request a spot on the betcast, and we'll send you the link for the betcast prior to it beginning on Tuesday night. We've got just a nice light as of right now. It is actually, there's just 3 games on Tuesday night. Islanders Hurricanes game 5, which we now know there will be a game 5 with the Islanders and Hurricanes on Tuesday night. Minnesota at Dallas, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and obviously that series will obviously at least go 5 games, so that one will take place. And of course, Edmonton, LA, also on Tuesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So those are the 3 games coming up Tuesday night on the Stanley Cup Playoffs live betcast. Islanders, Hurricanes, Wild Stars, and Oilers Kings. So make sure you join us on Tuesday night for another Ice Guys live betcast. We're back to wrap with best bets coming right up, right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete Performance Package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code ICEGUYS. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, it is time to put a wrap on this Saturday edition of the Ice Guys Playoff Edition with Best Bets. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for Best Bet?
Well, we're going to spend Saturday night in Manhattan. We're going to go with that Devils-Rangers game. Give me the New York Rangers team total over 3.5 plus $1.10. Lindy Ruff is saying it's a game time decision who's going to go with the net, Vitek Vanacek or Akira Schmid. Either way, I think we see a ton of goals here from the New York Rangers. I think that offense continues to click and dominate. The playoff experience is just too overwhelming. And I think that home crowd now on top of it with the Rangers back having a 2-0 lead, there's blood in the water, and they definitely smell it. So we're going to go with the blue shirts. Team total over 3.5 plus $1.10. That's my best bet for Saturday night.
All right, there you go. New York Rangers team total over 3.5. And again, they've scored 5 in each of the first 2 games. So if that duplicates itself, you'll be cashing that team total in that game tonight. New York Rangers team total over 3.5 for Alex B. Smith with his best bet. My best bet for this Saturday slate, I'm going to go to Winnipeg. First game on the board, and I'm going to go Winnipeg, but specifically the first period. On the Winnipeg Jets there. Again, you can find that at around -110, even money. I think the first period's the best look. I really do. I think early in that game, off the 5-2 loss in Vegas on Thursday night, you're going to see the Jets off to a good start. Connor Hellebuck's been absolutely phenomenal in these spots, off a loss in the playoffs, and especially one where he's given up 4 goals or more in the previous game. I like the full game. I am on the full game as well. But I like the first period look and the first 20 minutes even more. So Winnipeg Jets, -110 first period against the Vegas Golden Knights for best bet for this Saturday NHL playoff card. All right, that'll wrap it up for this edition. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Sunday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.